And you're live, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Good evening, members, and welcome. We look a bit thin on the ground today, but I'm sure we'll come to that in. Thank you, Councillor Stamp. You wanted me to start on time. Well, I was going to say, you wanted me to start on time. Now you're. Right, well, okay, well, that's the clerk's job. So good evening and welcome to Strategy and Resources Committee on Thursday, the 21st of September 2023. My name is Councillor Mark Durham and I'm Chairperson of this committee. Members, we are streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in this meeting, you are giving your consent to being recorded. During each item, please put your hand up to indicate if you wish to speak, and I will then invite you at the appropriate time. Could I ask members to avoid approaching the top table as this could create interference with cameras and live stream. Please note that the live stream, YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of the microphones. Therefore, can I ask that when invited to speak, you remember to turn on your microphone and turn it off when finished. Please reference a page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers. Keep your contributions clear and concise as possible. Thank you very much indeed. Item 2, apologies for absence. Tara?
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies received from Councillor Bown and Councillor White. Councillor Morgan is attending as a substitute for Councillor Bown, and we have been advised that Councillor Lay may be arriving a little late due to having to chair a meeting at the Town Council.
Yeah, I saw his email. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Chairman.
And next item on the agenda are minutes. I'm just going down here. So it's recommended that the minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of July this year, found on page commencing 5 of your agenda, are approved as a true and accurate record. I so move. Do I have a second, please? Everybody happy? Please indicate. Okay, thank you. Declarations of interest to disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests, and non-registrable interests relating to items of business on the agenda, having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. And members, you're also reminded that you are required to disclose an interest as soon as you become aware, should the need arise during the meeting. Members, any declarations of interest at this stage? No, thank you very much indeed. Item 5, public participation. I don't believe there is any, is there, Tara?
No, Chairman, we haven't had any, thank you.
Okay, thank you, which neatly brings us round to the first report, which is where has my agenda gone? It is here. Councillor Driver is here. That's fine. You're just in time. We've just done the official bits, Councillor Driver. We've just done the declarations of interest. I don't know if you've got any that you wish to add. Thank you very much. Indeed, you know the rest. So item 6 is delivery of section 106 capital projects for the year 24-25. This is found on pages 11 to 14. And this is Mr. Dodson. You're taking us through this, are you?
I'm not. It's Mr. Harwood White.
Mr. Harwood White. I'm sorry, Mr. Harwood White. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening. Good evening, members. This report concerns the Council Section 106 capital projects for 2024-25, and the report provides an update on the current position of those contributions and seeks approval to recruit a new fixed-term resource using surplus capital funding, and therefore no additional strain on the MTFS to deliver our Section 106 programme of works. Chair, as members be aware, the Council receives 106 contributions as part of the planning approval process for large applications. These financial contributions are part of the agreements between the Council and the developer and set out what those contributions can be used for. Chair, this report only covers Section 106 financial obligations that are due to Maldon District Council. Monies due to ECC or the NHS are not included in this report. Chairman, the Council currently holds contributions of approximately £1 million of Section 106 contributions. As such, this represents a fantastic opportunity to bring forward some exciting new projects for the benefit of the community. The table within the report sets out those contributions held by the Council and potential projects that could be delivered subject to community engagement. The Council recognises that these projects are of vital importance to the community and therefore monitors the position of these financial contributions to ensure they can be delivered in a timely and effective way. Chair, recent service planning and monitoring has demonstrated that these projects are at risk of not being delivered. The reason for this, the potential risk, is that no additional resources were identified to deliver the work at the time the allocations were made. In addition, Chair, existing staff are already fully engaged on delivering the Council's own corporate capital programme and repair and renewal programme of works, and do not have spare capacity to deliver a programme of this scale. Chair, the Council has been proactive in reviewing options to secure additional resource to deliver the Section 106 capital programme. As laid out in the report, the Council has recently received confirmation from the South Essex Parking Partnership, or SEP, that it will receive £137,000 to deliver capital projects within its car parks as part of that surplus. The Council had already identified the capital sum to deliver these projects from existing budgets. Therefore, as a result, the SEP surplus funding now has a surplus in its own capital budget of £137,000. Chair, it's therefore proposed that this surplus funding be used to fund a new fixed-term project manager to deliver the Section 106 programme of works. The Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy, or CIPFA, have confirmed this guidance, and they confirm that capital funding of this type can be used to fund staff costs incurred as a result of staff spending time on capital projects. This can be capitalised provided that the time can be linked to bring a specific asset into working condition or substantially enhancing the life of the asset. Chair, in conclusion, the Council has an ambition programme of Section 106 funded works and it wishes to deliver these to support its corporate priorities. The Council has identified that these projects are at risk of not being delivered due to officers being fully engaged on other corporate priorities. The proposal set out in the report would fund a new fixed-term project manager to deliver the Section 106 programme of works to the value of approximately £1 million at no direct additional cost to the Council above that already set out in the medium-term financial strategy. Chair, that concludes a summary of the report. My colleagues Sue Green and Anne Altoff-Shawland join us remotely and we're pleased to take any questions members may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. So, members, you have 3 recommendations for this evening, which I won't go through at this moment, but can I have any comments or questions, please? Councillor Driver was first, then Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Chair. It's just an observation that these are not new projects, are they? These are projects that had been identified at the time that the LDP was put together with associated proposed funding for these, which we haven't yet managed to deliver. Is that correct?
Chair, that's correct. These are historical projects, some of them going back a number of years.
Councillor Morgan.
Yes, thank you, Chair. With regards to the money due from the South Essex Parking Partnership, I happen to know because I'm on it, that that has to be actually approved by the SEP committee before those funds are released. Has that approval been received?
Chairman, it has. My colleague Sue Green, who also has been heavily involved in the SEP partnership, is with us remotely. My understanding is it certainly has been received and is in our accounts. I'll just ask if Ms Green could just confirm, please, Chair.
Mrs Green, yes. Can you fill us in, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, the full surplus has been agreed, and my understanding, yes, it has been received now, so that SEP surplus is with the Council.
Thank you.
I was waiting for you to indicate, Councillor Stamp. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I have reassurance that these projects will be delivered in a timely fashion and within the budget? No disrespect, but we all know projects slip, and I wouldn't want anybody to coming back to this council asking for another 6 months funding to deliver projects when it really should have been costed in originally. Thank you.
Mr Harwood-White.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question. It's an ambitious timeline we've set ourselves, but the planning we've done today does identify that 18 months is sufficient to deliver the programme of works within the report.
Of course you can.
Thank you. And can I have the reassurance that the members will be included, not just the specific ward members, but the members of Burnham on Crouch, which there's 4 of us, even though they're going to be delivered in the South Ward, not the North Ward, which is mine, Chair. And also, I am concerned about the level of consultation again, because a lot of work was done originally. So if there's anything present members can do, and even past members can do, because I know Councillor Skeens was heavily involved, especially with delivery of the BMX park. It might be an idea, he's now a town councillor, and he may be able to help support. So the delivery could be quicker by doing that and saving some money and some time to deliver the project rather than risk running out of funding, Chairman, if that's okay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Stamp. Yes, we would certainly be reaching out to members, ward members and wider members to engage and consult on the type of programme, type of projects to deliver. And in terms of reporting back to members, recommendation 3 would be a quarterly report to this committee on updates of the programme. So happy to bring that forward, Chair.
Yeah, there's a point I want to raise, and Councillor Stamp will be aware as well, because we both sat on the YSGs until they were disbanded, and there was discussion about using YSG funding, particularly for the skate park, and in fact the design of that was progressed in association with the youngsters themselves, wasn't it? And there was a design, I believe, agreed. So what I don't want to do is to be rewriting that book from the start when a lot of the preliminary work was done. And also I'd like to know what's happened to the funding that was given to the YSG for those projects.
Thank you, Chair. I can't comment on that particular funding question, but I can comment on engagement with the YSG, if that's helpful. We met with them a number of weeks back to review the work they've done previously, their outreach work, their engagement with young people, and some early designs they also had for the skate park. So certainly we can bring that forward. We're not starting from a standing start. We have some information we can use already. So contact's being made, and it's certainly helpful to get that part of the project moving.
Yeah, I think because in our YSG meetings, they made the point very strongly that it's not for us old fogies to be designing skate parks. There are, their requirements. The people that we should be consulting with are the people that use them, because they know what they want. So I'm pleased that is not going to be wasted. Councillor Siddle.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to check when these amounts were defined, because if it was a couple of years ago, obviously we've had a lot of inflation in terms of that. So are these figures as of now? Because we know with inflation, and we know, for example, with the pontoon in Burnham, the cost of that has gone up. So yeah, are we sure that this has got the right amount of contingency in, and that we'll be able to use the budget in the right way?
Thank you, Chair. I'm very conscious of the inflation point. I think the longer this project stalls until we get off the ground, we're losing value of that money. I am very conscious to move this forward, hence to bring a report before you this evening. I'm very, very mindful of that. In terms of whether these are hard figures or inflation linked, I will bring in Anne, if I may, Chair, just to confirm that point. Anne works in our planning team, will be able to answer that question for us.
Yes, good evening.
Hello. The Section 106 funding is indexed, so we add indexation onto the invoices that we send out to developers. So the initial negotiated amount is always less than the money than they actually pay.
Right. Okay. So we just got to hope that whatever index you're increasing it by is equivalent to the inflation in construction costs, which I tend to doubt. But
the indexation is set out in the Section 106 agreement.
Okay.
And we use the industry specifications on it's the BCIS website, and it calculates it for us.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Fittock.
I'd just like to point out they're only indexed up to the point of receipt. So if they'd been received 3 years ago, or 2 years ago or 1 year ago, then they won't be indexed, will they?
That's correct. Yeah, that is correct.
So we're yet to invoice for these, is that correct?
Yes. Well,
Okay,
yeah, when the funds become due, we work out the indexation and then we invoice the developer and then they pay us.
okay. Now, there will become a stage where if we don't utilise these funds, then they could be repayable.
That's correct. Yes.
And where are we with that, please?
We have plenty of time, actually. I think the first one's due in October 26 to be paid back.
Right, okay. Thank you. Councillor, are you okay, Councillor Fitter? Yeah, Councillor Stamp.
Can I ask the thick question, Chairman?
No such thing as a silly or thick question.
Well, it is. Back of what Councillor Siddle's just raised. So, have we got the money? Is it fixed? Is it going to go up before the project's being delivered? That's all I want to know.
No,
Is that
we haven't got the money yet. They haven't been invoiced
They
yet.
haven't invoiced it, so that we haven't invoiced for it.
No.
So it could be more than this.
That's what we just heard. This is a baseline, and this will be indexed at to the point of invoice.
Anne wants to come back, Chair.
Yeah, please come back. Yeah.
No, all the money's in the bank.
Oh, right.
All the money is now in the bank except one, Section 106 for Site 2B, which has not been factored into these calculations anyway.
So therefore, we will be subject to at risk of our value not being sufficient, or what it was when we received the money. Yes.
Well, that will be up to Matt Harwood-White to work
Yeah.
out
Okay.
how much is paid.
Mr. Harwood-White, when was it paid?
I think it's, if we hold that money now, we are subject to inflationary pressure now.
Right.
As Anne set out, hence the need to move the project
So
forward
we
at
need
pace.
to spend it as quickly as possible.
Yes, Chairman.
While its value remains what it is.
Indeed.
Councillor Driver.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask about what or how the SEP money could have been used if we don't use it for this purpose? I'm not suggesting we don't use it for this purpose, because it seems like it's a useful thing, but how else might it have been used?
Thank you.
Chairman, I'm happy to
Yeah, thank you, Mrs.
answer
Green.
that.
Yeah.
So the funding that we had from SEP has actually been fully committed against various projects. Two of the projects were projects that the council had already got in its capital plan. Therefore, part of the SEP surplus we received was to fund new projects, and part of it was to fund existing projects. So what that has in effect done is it's enabled us to put some of the capital back into our own accounts, so we'll be able to use that in any way that the council considers as a priority. So at the moment there are no restrictions on the use of that part of it actually isn't the SEP funding, it's the council's capital, but it's been made available through the receipt of the SEP funding, which is now being used to fund projects that otherwise we would have funded ourselves.
As I recall it, there was discussion a while ago when the SEP money wasn't offered, but it was in effect offered. We used it instead of our capital budget for, I think we refurbished some car parks, didn't we, and did some work there, because broadly it had to be parking linked. So what we're actually committing now is what was from our capital budget that we didn't have to spend because we got the SEP money. That's broadly correct, isn't it?
That's correct, Chairman.
Okay, right. Councillor Driver.
To be slightly controversial then, potentially there would be money, for instance, to introduce parking in Burnham and to get an income from it. So I'm not saying, we should use it in that way, but it's an opportunity cost, isn't it? We have chosen not to use it along those lines to enable these projects, which I accept. It seems a sensible way forward, but there is an opportunity cost associated with not using it, potentially for car parks.
I think it's
or
fair,
other areas in the Dengie. Thank you.
It was an unexpected bonus that came through because of the surplus generated by the South Essex Parking Partnership, and their surplus was divided up between all of the members of there. because previously South Essex Parking Partnership had made quite significant deficits and authorities had to chip in basically to balance the books. So they've cleared an accumulated surplus by redistributing amongst its members. Councillor Morgan.
Yes, Chair. Just to sort of clarify, that the money produced from SEP has to be used specifically for parking purposes, and MDC has gone back, has to go back to SEP with its plans of how that money is to be spent, and SEP then approves it and gives the money. So there isn't really anything else available from that particular funds. All that's happened is that we've been able to release monies from our capital budget to cover those possible.
Right, members, we've heard from officers. Councillor Fluker.
Chairman, at 1 o'clock this afternoon, I didn't know anything about skate parks, but now I feel as I could take it as a specialist subject in Mastermind. Chairman, I'm interested in a lot of things in this report. I mean, there's an awful lot of risks around appointing somebody into this role. I mean, you know, we're talking about an 18-month appointment. Officers and some of the longer-serving members will remember what happened, for example, when we had an outside contractor come in to review the planning department. So I won't dwell on that. Chairman, it seems to me that if we're going to build anything reasonable, then we are going to need planning permission. I spoke to PAS today and they said that is quite possible if we were to build a reasonable scheme. I mean, that could take 4 months to sort out. So, you know, if we appoint somebody into this role, 4 months on the figures that are in this report, that'll be 28,000 quid. And Chairman, you have to, I mean, I'm sure that Mr. Harwood White has already had long conversations with Skateboard GB. I was looking for a signal, I didn't get one. But Chairman, that's the key to this. Skateboard GP actually lies, you know, it's a design and development guidance for skateboards. And they say it's absolutely important that you consult with exactly the people you mentioned. Now, the whole of the skateboard sport has changed dramatically in the last 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. We will almost certainly have to go out to consultation again. It would be the only right and proper thing to do. They are saying a minimum of 3-month consultation. The cost of that, Chairman, paying somebody for that period of time would be 21,000. Chairman, if I've got it right, there's £814,000 aligned to the provision of renovation of the skate parks and the provision of new ones. Chairman, again, I'm sure that the officer's spoken to the likes of Maverick and Clark and Kent, who I've been in touch with, and they provide turnkey solutions for this type of work. So what they would do, they would come up with the design, build and delivery and deal with project management.
That is actually what was happening under the youth service.
Yeah. So, and Chairman, they would also handle the public consultation, come up with a design suitable for skates, Chairman, scoots, bikes, and WMX. And we should not forget about the WMX. Really, really important. And I'm sure for your time on the YSG, you'll know exactly what that is. And Chairman, they come up with detailed costings and fixed price contract. I'd also refer officers to Gloucester. They've got a fantastic piece of fantastic document on their website. It's a little old, but it does actually say. So, and something, Chairman, which I'm staggered that this report doesn't speak to, and that's ongoing costs. ROSPA, Royal Society Prevention of Accidents, they actually say, and you can pick this information up from Skateboard GB, that depending whether you go on a steel scheme or a timber scheme or concrete, the annual costs to maintain them is around about a minimum of 10%. So I'd like to know if anybody has spoken to these companies, because if they do, they'll see the marvellous things that have been delivered throughout the country. And who knows, Chairman, we might go and visit the New Haven pump track, because that is supposed to be one of the best local authority tracks in the country. Chairman, my view on this is is that, Chairman, if we were, I think the Chairman's seen you, Councillor Siddle. My view on this, Chairman, is we should explore this, because if they bring forward a design and delivery package, deal with the consultation, then we don't need anybody in-house, certainly not to the tune of £85,000 per annum. This could be moved to one of these companies. I've spoken to them. This is exactly what they do for other local authorities. I think we're a little bit tied up here. On one hand, we are saying that we need to get this sorted out and we need an officer to deal with this. But to me, there's a simple solution to this, which would actually mean more money going into these projects. And I'm sure there will be more money going into them, Chairman, because I'm sure that the Section 151 officer will agree with me that if we've had £814,000 on deposit, then perhaps that's attracted some kind of investment income, and that should be added onto this. So, Chairman, and before I go on to making a proposal, in the report, paragraph 3.7.5, it says basically that this officer will also support the delivery of other projects. Well, I can imagine where we'll be in 18 months' time. What will happen is we'll say, oh, well, this officer's been involved in everything else, and that's why it's not delivered on skate park in Riverside Park or Promenade Park. If we are to agree to this role, it should be totally and utterly focused on delivering these projects. Chairman, I'll just speak briefly to the sensory play areas, because I think it would be wrong not to.
Briefly.
Yeah, I'm there. Again, I believe in that private meeting on the day before yesterday that I attended, I think somebody spoke about the sensory thing. And you might like to ask the question, Chairman, what the intelligence is around that, because my understanding is they haven't found anybody to deliver that. Chairman, I think sensory play areas are very, very important. But again, we should be thinking outside the box. We should be more proactive than reactive. And I would have thought tying up with the RHS or a Whittle College, who actually have courses on these, I think they'd probably love to have an area to come and build one. So maybe we should do that. Chairman, my proposal is that we either defer until we've got more information, or, Chairman, we don't appoint this person. We don't take whatever it is, £135,000 a year out of our funds to pay for this post, and that we explore the opportunity, Chairman, of going to a design and build company who, by the way, Chairman, would happily look at this as a whole project. So they would deal with refurbishment and they would deal with the provision of new. They would deal with that all in-house, and they potentially could save this council a lot of money. Thank you, Chairman. I've made my proposal.
Well, I'm going to, yes. I'm aware that is the route that the youth service were progressing, and I can't remember the name of the contractor, and I'm sure Councillor Stamp can't either, but that was a design and build consultancy looking at the design, and of course it's a replacement of an existing, so probably wouldn't need planning in respect of the Prom Park. So I mean, I'm sure that can be answered. Let's let Mr. Howard-White answer your questions.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of engagement with communities, it's mentioned in the report, and these are the projects mentioned within the report, and it does give us some flexibility in terms of what could be delivered at each of those sites within the terms of the Section 106 agreement. So that would be as a result of community engagement. So the officer speaking with the community, with members, with the YSG and others around what the facility could look like, what type of facility could be brought forward within the terms of the agreement. In terms of 3.7.5, Councillor Fluker mentioned supporting other capital projects. What the report sets out, this project manager would be their priority, and their focus would be the Section 106 programme, as set out in the report, where if there was capacity and time where possible, they could support other capital programmes the council was delivering. Last year, we didn't fully deliver our capital programme due to other capacity issues, so if there was capacity within that role, they could support our own capital programme and add some more resource to that team. But the priority and their focus would be on the Section 106 programme of works dedicated to those projects within the report, Chairman.
I'm going to ask the question, which I think was where Councillor Fluker was alluding. The question is, have we looked, we've got £1 million to spend, have we looked at taking that £1 million to a design and build company for a turnkey solution for all of these items, because there are companies out there. I have experience. Okay, I declare an interest in that. I'm a cabinet member for Country Parks. We have a BMX track on Hadley Country Park, which was built, funded largely by Sport England, built for the Olympic Games in 2012. It is a maintenance nightmare, and it is costing an absolute fortune, and we cannot get out of that maintenance liability because of the contract with Sport England. And what it created was a BMX track for Olympics quality bikers, which is more or less lethal for anybody else going there. So, you know, a quarter of it is unusable. So, you know, we do have to take the ongoing revenue costs as a consideration. But Mr. Howard-White, have you got?
In terms of revenue implications, Chair, you're quite right. Anything we build will have a revenue pressure. What I've seen in my time at Maldon, there are pressures on those assets. There always are. Any asset you build will have a revenue pressure. We'll need to consider that with anything we bring forward. Equally, if we are replacing facilities and assets, we could actually reduce some of our maintenance liabilities where these assets are ageing. But certainly, if it's a new asset that we're adding to the to our portfolio, yes, it would have a revenue stream. We have to carefully consider that in terms of construction materials, life of the asset, and everything else you'd expect, Chair. So there would be potentially revenue streams on some new assets, but also savings on anything we replaced as new. Hope that helps, Chairman.
So my question, have we considered going out to a company and saying, here's £1 million, come up with these products?
In short, no, Chair, we haven't. Our preference is to have a project manager within the team that knows our processes, our area, our priorities, that could work with our local people and local members to bring those schemes forward. If we went to a designer builder, there still need to be a level of team involvement to work with them, to engage, to consult, to bring that forward. And we don't feel within the team, the current resources we have, we could deliver that effectively. Hence our recommendation, Chair, to have a fixed term project manager within that surplus.
Although that work had started with the youth service.
Understood, Chair.
Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Councillor Fluke, and come back, of course you can.
So much. Yeah, okay, well, yeah, I'm grateful for that, but I've sort of drilled in a bit of this consultation. There's absolutely nothing about WCMX, and that's the key to get some more funding. I'm sure that Mr. Howard-White knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's absolutely critical that we do these consultations. A turnkey solution provider will handle it all. You know, they will probably come up with they'll do your consultation, they'll come back here, they'll do a presentation, and it's job done. And they will come up with a figure, which we can then present to the 106 funder, and we don't have all this complications about finding 145 grand. And Chairman, the impact on resources, financial, I understand what Mr. Howard-White says about all projects do have on costs, but it should be mentioned in there, Chairman. I think that, you know, members should be reminded that if we deliver these projects, potentially, if you were to believe what Rosper said, we could be talking about £80,000 a year in maintenance fees. And that should be in this report. I'm not saying that should stop us doing it, but members should be reminded of these things. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, and of course the existing skate park has needed funding every year. So I'm going to go to Councillor Siddle first, then Councillor Thompson, then Councillor Fittock.
Thank you, Chair. The site at Hadley Park is a mountain bike site, which is a completely different situation to a BMX track. So they are two completely different things. I can appreciate what Councillor Fluker is saying. However, as Mr. Howard-White has pointed out, and as officers have pointed out, we do not have the internal resources to deliver these projects. That's why they haven't been delivered, because we don't have the internal resources. That's why it's not happened. It's not happened over the last 4 years, Councillor Fluker. So we need to be aware of that. And the whole point of this position is having a project manager who will go out to these organisations, consult with those organisations and use them. Sorry, did I say anything while you were talking, Councillor Fluker?
No, I wasn't talking. I was absolutely exasperated, because that's exactly how you're going to stretch this. Through you, Chairman, you're going to stretch this project. You know, at the end of the day, Chairman, I could leave the council tomorrow, and Chairman, I would come and do this project for you,
please.
Well, me in the conversation,
Okay,
Chairman.
let's let
You were
Councillor.
huffing and puffing.
Can we not, Councillor Siddle? Let's just get on with the business, please.
So the business is, we need this resource to be able to deliver the projects. And it's not just BMX projects, it's other projects as well. Without this resource, and because of the transformation, we don't have enough resources in this authority. So we are having to employ additional resources so the Section 106 money can be spent. It hasn't been spent in the last 4 years when the Conservatives were in the majority running this administration, Councillor Fluker. So we need to ensure that we deliver this so that we are able to deliver the Section 106 money. Without the project manager, we do not have the internal resource to deliver it. That internal resource, I'm sure, will do more than Councillor Fluker has done today by going on Google and talking to a few organisations.
Well, firstly, Councillor Siddle, this is not the venue for bringing political statements in, and I think that was uncalled for and unnecessary. And I think you should also take account of the fact that out of the last 4 years, we've had 2 years of hiatus due to the COVID, and I wish it was as simple as you've just pointed out, but I'm afraid it wasn't. But your point is taken. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chairman. There's some good suggestions here, but they can't be done like that in isolation, as Mr. Harwood White's already said. You know, there needs to be liaison with this authority, and someone's got to do it. And it doesn't seem we have the resource to do that. I do have one question. What other projects are there that aren't youth projects that need to be covered by this Section 106 officer? And what sort of value are we talking about?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. If you're referring to the other council's capital programmes and RR programmes,
the other Section 106 one, sorry, Chairman, just to make...
This is the totality of our Section 106
Oh, it is, okay.
Money we hold, yes.
Right, just checking. On that basis, I think we probably should defer and give the officers time to see if there's another way. Maybe we don't need this officer for so long, or maybe you need to think about exactly what time they would need, what point they'd need to start. But
that's for this committee to decide.
We can't do this without some extra resource, it seems to me.
That's a proposal, I'll second it.
Where are we going to get it from?
You've already made a proposal.
Well,
we didn't get it seconded, but
well, maybe it is, but it wasn't actually intended to be. I'm happy to
let's
go
wait
with
until we've heard
Councillor
from everybody,
Fluker's.
shall we, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Fittock?
So see what comes.
Thank you,
out of that.
Chairman. Just for purposes of clarity, if what we're saying that this £137 is in the capital account and it's become available because there were capital projects approved that then got replaced by the SEP money, then in principle this money came from the general reserves and could be put back into the general reserve if there's no capital project for it. So I think it's important that we understand what money we're spending and why. And I do think what Councillor Fluker says is valid to some degree, but on the other hand, residents I speak to don't see there's been much benefit from all the development over the last 10 years, and doing these things in a relatively quick time frame would be of tremendous benefit, I think, to the morale of the residents. But it's a question of whether the Councillor Fluker's proposal would be the right way forward, or whether the officer's recommendation for a project manager would be the right way forward. I think it's a difficult one, and perhaps there is a need for a bit more time to consider this matter.
I stand to be corrected, but as I understand it, if we don't use the one, because bear in mind the 106 money is given at the approval stage and is for a specific purpose. If we don't use it for that, we have to return it to the developer. So putting it back into the general fund is not an option.
Well, we've got 5 years.
Ms Lucas.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify in terms of the funding that's been replaced from the capital programme. So those funds are allocated for from our capital reserve, so they do need to be spent. They do need to be capitalisable. So if it wasn't used for this purpose, then they would need to be recycled back into the capital programme in some form, and they couldn't just be returned to general balances. But in terms of the actual pot that this money is intended to deliver, you're right that they're limited to the Section 106 agreements that were originally agreed with the developers. So that there's the actual deliverable pot, if you like, which is for the purposes of Section 106. And this money that's been released from the capital programme needs to be spent on capital projects or the delivery of capital projects.
So we have to spend this amount on those facilities because that's what was in the Section 106 agreement.
Yeah, so as Anne said, the monies under Section 106 are set out for particular purposes and have to be used for those purposes. The money that's been is proposed to be allocated from the capital programme has come from capital reserves and therefore could either be returned to the council's capital programme and used for alternative capital projects, but it couldn't just be returned into the general balance and used for revenue purposes.
Okay, thank you very much. Did you want to add something, Mr. Howard-White, on that?
No, Chairman, I'll just agree with Lucas in terms of that position. That's entirely correct.
Councillor Thompson, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, could I come back briefly, please, Chairman? I mean, the projects need to be done in time and the residents want them, they don't want to wait forever for them. My only concern is that we do get maximum value from this money and we have the officer, obviously the right officer, but also for the right length of time and doing the right work so that the residents get maximum value, which is what the idea is. I don't know if officers need more time to do that or if we just crash on with this, but if this is...
The only thing I would say is that is the role of a project manager to make sure that we get best value from the project. So, you can argue it both ways, can't you? So, what I don't think we can do is just keep kicking this down the road. We do need to make a decision because as we've heard, as every week that goes by, the finished product is going to vary due to the inflation. So, what I'm going to do is put the recommendations as per the agenda and we'll see where we get. Yes, Mr. Howard-White.
Sorry, Chair. Just before you do that, Chair, just to, if it helps, Chair and members, to clarify, in terms of, we've spoken about design and build option that's been discussed. Just to clarify my earlier response, if you were to go down that road, that would still require some level of project management resource.
I appreciate that.
And I think it's worth just reflecting on previously the council, as other members have stated, hasn't delivered on the Section 106 programme, but equally we actually haven't fully delivered our own corporate capital programme either for our internal resource. So it's worth clarifying that in terms of the position that council was in, we're not actually delivering our own programme, let alone this new £1 million programme. Just to put that into context, Chairman, in terms of project management, in addition to any design and build we would have for the 106 programme. Thank you, Chairman.
Right. Councillor Sluker, you put a challenge out, I think.
And no, Chairman, I just wanted to remind you, and I'm sure as soon as I start you'll remember, but you never actually put your the recommendations.
No, I didn't, but yours wasn't seconded to my knowledge.
I believe mine was seconded.
I didn't notice anybody.
Well, I seconded Councillor but Chairman, there's nothing to stop. Sorry, I was in a different place then. Yeah, so Councillor Thompson.
Chairman, I'm grateful Councillor Fluker didn't refer to me as Councillor Cruella, but I'm also
no, that was Morris, not me.
Right, can we?
I actually don't believe I didn't second it. I was mulling over something.
Well, Chairman,
right,
I definitely Councillor Thompson made a proposal, Chairman, but for clarity, and bearing in mind you still haven't made your recommendation, I would propose, Chairman, that we defer this to allow Mr. Harwood White to speak to Skateboard GB, to speak to Maverick, Clark and Kent, and come up with an alternative to spending £140,000.
Well, okay, Councillor Fluker, that's a legitimate proposal, so now we want a seconder for that.
Well, thank you very much.
Right, so I will therefore put...
I'll second that.
Right. Well, you didn't have to, Councillor Thompson, because I was going to put the substantive recommendation, but... Councillor... No, I'm not. Come on, members, you know how this works. Please, let's just have a little... You know, sorry, this is for the residents, and the residents deserve better than what they're getting, I'm afraid. Councillor Siddle.
So if we were to vote in favour of Councillor Fluker's recommendation, I'd like to hear from Mr. Harwood White what the implications are for the existing staff and existing projects, and what projects will be delayed as a result of that, and what pressure that will put on our existing staff members in terms of going out to that consultation and not having a project manager to do it.
Mr. Harwood White, by all means answer if you can.
Thank you, Chairman. It is difficult to quantify at this point in terms of exactly what would be delayed. I am conscious the Council's capital programme includes items such as replacing the Galleon on Prom Park and other projects and other improvements in our car parks and other assets. I'd have to speak to colleagues about reprioritising what that would look like in the wider service plan. But as I said previously, we haven't fully delivered our own capital programme last year, and I'm concerned we would fall further behind, Chairman.
Right. I'll let Councillor Stamp.
It's a quick one, really, Chairman. So basically, let's be honest about it. If we do agree with the officer's recommendation, we're supporting the other projects on this council to be delivered. So it should have been more clear, I think, that we are actually using the Section 10, we are actually using the 137 to subsidise and help deliver the projects which should have been delivered, and we haven't. So based on that, I totally do really agree with Councillor Fluker's in principle, but I certainly don't want to be the reason why our capital projects are not being delivered. But I do want the assurance that the Section 106 money and the projects will be delivered, because if, mark my words, if they are not in the time frame and you come back for the money from the council, this decision and this meeting will come to haunt you. Well, it will, because we need the guarantees, Councillor Fluker, and you, Chairman.
Councillor Stamp, I don't think threatening officers is not particularly...
And I was having a laugh, and he knows I wouldn't threaten him, Chair.
They will do their utmost to deliver, but yes, Mr. Harwood White.
Through you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Stamp.
Was it?
Chair, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
Before us, we have £1 million worth of investment in the community. All our residents, I'm sure, and members will gather behind that fact and how we need to bring that forward. I'm sure residents will really gladly welcome that, and I really want to move that forward, hence the programme tonight. Given the scale of that programme, and bear in mind it's roughly double the own council's corporate programme, it's significant in terms of what we're looking to deliver. I've already said we were behind on our capital programme last year and the year before. There are challenges, there are dependencies on all those programmes in any capital programme and an ageing estate. I can't sit here and guarantee in 18 months that will be delivered as full. What we can do is bring forward a project manager to manage the process, the dependencies within that project, to bring forward the projects within that report. That's what I'm striving to do. That's what the report sets out to do. Hope that's helpful, but in terms of what we're looking to achieve, that's the ambition. And so that's what that programme manager would be dedicated to doing, bringing forward £1 million worth of Section 106 investment for this council for a number of years, Chairman.
That's well put, thank you. Right, Councillor Thompson, final go.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate I've had a couple of goes, but not on this particular proposal. I mean, given that obviously there needs to be some resource even with a turnkey solution, and given that a professional project manager might well be looking at a turnkey solution, thus freeing up some time to work on all these other capital projects. I mean, if our residents are going to get really good value for money out of this project manager, and using a turnkey solution simply means that residents get more of our capital projects provided, that's fine. Just because I seconded it doesn't mean I'm actually going to vote for it. I just want to get it all discussed and out there so that we can do the right thing. Thank you.
So are you still seconding Councillor Fluker's proposal? Well, then I take that as a yes. Councillor Driver.
Thank you, Chair. I think I said at the full council last week about my concerns about us not actually delivering infrastructure, and that out there is a huge concern that housing is going up without the promised infrastructure, and we have an opportunity here to try and get some of that infrastructure in place so our residents start to see some benefit from all the housing going up, which they're not seeing at the moment. I do have some sympathy with Councillor Fluker's concern about a turnkey solution and the fact that that's not on the table. However, I recognise the wider point that it is the delivery of this S106 money and also its benefit to delivering some wider projects which we haven't been able to do as yet, which hopefully residents will see a benefit to. So I think I would support
Chairman,
that.
point of clarity.
Right.
Point of clarity.
Yes.
I think what Councillor Driver probably refers to is education and healthcare, which is not actually in the remit of this, and indeed highways.
Well,
Councillor Fluker, no, I'm not. I'm talking about across the piece infrastructure. Thank you.
Okay. Right, Councillor Fluker, you made a proposal. It was seconded by Councillor Thompson. In as few words as you can possibly manage it, could you summarise what your proposal is, please?
Thank you, Chairman, but I'm sure the clerk's recorded it.
Well, that I
Okay,
Miss
Chairman,
Bird, could you-
I'll, for the benefit of Miss Bird, Chairman, my proposal was, Chairman, that we defer this decision for 4 weeks in order for Mr. Harwood-White to answer some of these questions that I've proposed, so that we can either we can go down the turnkey solution or not, Chairman. This is a huge amount of money, and Chairman, I won't ask for a recorded vote, but I'd like my vote recorded. Thank you.
I think yes. Miss Bird, did you get that? And are you happy to second that version, Councillor Thompson?
Having got this far, Chairman,
Yes, I think I'd
yes,
rather
we
not
better
have
vote on
all that half an hour wasted. Miss Bird, are you happy with that?
I think so, Chairman, yes.
Right, okay, so please indicate, members, those in favour of Councillor Fluker's proposal.
Chair, is it just to defer? Yes, just defer. When is the next week?
It's more than 4 weeks, it's 6 weeks.
But is it just to defer and come back to adoption?
It was fairly straightforward, Councillor Stamp. It was to defer pending other solutions, including a turnkey. Right. So please indicate those in favour of Councillor Fluker's proposal. Thank you. Right. Okay. So there are 2, and those are 3, and those against. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is not carried, Councillor Fluker. I would therefore put the substantive, that is, and I'm going to take all 3 at the same time. So recommendations under item or point 2, and that's little 1, 2, and 3. Those in favour of the recommendations in the report, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those against.
Bear in mind, this is carried. It does not, in that recommendation, it says nothing about working on other projects. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So that is. Oh, and yes, Councillor Siddle.
I would just like to withdraw some of my comments that I made about my Conservative colleagues, and I apologise for any offence that was called, and I was not in the right frame of mind when I made those.
Chairman, I don't think that was sincere.
Your apology is accepted gratefully. Thank you. Thank you, Leader. Yeah, just to reiterate, this is not about political point scoring. This is about delivering for residents, irrespective of the colour of your rosette. Right. next item on the agenda, supplementary estimates, Virements, Procurement, Exemptions, Use of Reserves, Q1, and that will be Miss Lucas, I think.
Thanks, my colleague Lance.
Oh, okay. Mr. Porteous.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. This is the quarterly report that discloses the movements in budgets, reserves and procurement exemptions over the 3-month period to 30th of June 2023 for members noting an agreement as per the rules and regulations set out in section 3.1. This report asks members to note the 5 Virements detailed in paragraph 3.3.1, to note the 3 procurement exemptions detailed in paragraph 3.5.1, and to approve the 1 drawdown from reserves described in paragraph 3.6.1. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Siddle.
Thank you, Chair. I have a concern just to get a bit more information about things like grass cutting and the verge cutting. When I first joined the authority, and one of the things that we did in terms of what we were looking at in terms of the authority was that we would look at using our grass cutting team to make money and to sell our services. Now it seems that those services don't seem to be able to cope with what we're doing. We're having to go out and spend money on additional contractors to deliver those things. I just want to know what the reason behind that is, and especially with the cemetery, because the cemetery, I've had quite a few things in terms of my mailbox about the cemetery. In terms of that cemetery, is that a one-off thing? Is that an ongoing thing? Are we going to be spending this money over the next year? So just to be clear about why it is that we're having to use contractors now, and what the reasons are behind that expenditure.
Fair comments. I don't know who can answer that.
Chairman, I'm happy to
thank
assist
you.
that answer. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Siddle. When I joined the authority back in January, one of the first things I did was review the cemetery and park service. It became very clear to me, very early stages, that there were severe pressures across both teams. We were receiving an unacceptable number of complaints across our cemetery service, our grass cutting service. Service was well below where I want it to be. And have been working with the teams to review both services to see how we can deliver that better. As an interim measure, we did have some vacancies, so we've managed to use that salary saving to bring in some agency support, some ad hoc support to get the cemeteries back to where they need to be in terms of a grounds maintenance provision. Certainly not a long-term provision. It literally got us over our initial issue over the summer, but a service review process is ongoing to look at various options to how we can deal with this in the longer term. It's an issue, from my understanding, that the teams have had for a number of years now, and they've been firing funds using salary savings to enable them to carry out that work. That's not sustainable in the long term. It's not value for money, doesn't meet our procurement regulations, and we need to do better, in simple terms. I'm working with the team to bring forward a service review, and I hope to bring that to this committee in the next few months, Chairman.
I go back before most people were here, except Councillor Fleeger and Councillor Thompson. There was a time when we were effectively a contractor offering our services out to parish councils. I do know that in the cases, the parish councils that I visited, when the MDC services were tendering, they were not competitive, and weren't employed by many parishes. But anyway, does that answer your question, Councillor Siddle? Councillor Stamp.
Thank you, Chair. Just for Mr. Howard White's benefit, there's always been issues with cemetery and grass cutting. I can remember going with Matt Wilson and Richard Holmes to the Maldon with Councillor, what's her name? Vanessa Bell to Burnham surgery at cemetery, and we were absolutely disgusted, and then we got then it was brought in about wilding, and then you got the problem with adders. Adders bite, they bite dogs, they bite humans in the cemetery. So I understand that we've had all these issues, and I'm really disappointed because I think we did look at purchasing equipment to be able to charge out our services, to look at a business opportunity, which is what Councillor Siddle and Councillor Durham has actually said. I do think we're often so inward looking at this council. We looked at it for TrueCam, and we never did anything about it. And so that's all been wheedled down to more or less hardly anything now. But my point, Chairman, that I want to raise, and the question I have, is 3.6.1. The Community Housing Reserve to cover the 3-month contract extension for an employment support coach. Can we have an update on that? Because I do believe that the position has been met by DWP. Can somebody actually say that? And now it's actually, yes, the lights have gone on the screen.
Yep.
So I think it'd be really nice that members could actually have an update on that. And I'd just like clarity, Chair, that it is, I'd just like clarity that we are still having to pay this 12,500 because the deal lapsed. Is that quite clear, Chair?
Yeah, that's fine. It looks like Miss Wheatley. Tara, for the minutes, Councillor Lay has arrived.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Yes, just in relation to the DWP funding. So there's always a bit of a delay in terms of when we receive the funding from when we put the bid in. We've had an officer in the employment coach role now for 2 years, and we have just secured additional 2-year funding through the DWP to keep the employment coach on for a further 2 years. But there was just that gap in time where the funding for the role ran out, and we needed to keep her on the assumption that we would get that further DWP funding. So we did request a supplementary estimate to cover that gap, and where we can, we will look to repay that through any underspend within the housing service if we have any by the end of this financial year. Thank you.
Do you want to come back, Councillor
Only
Stamp?
quickly, can I just ask why there was a gap? And I'm grateful that you've turned around and said you're going to try and claw it back, but I just wondered why there was a gap, because I think we would have known that the contract was due to end. Was it our end or was it the DWP? Thanks.
I think it's just historical from where the fixed term contract was originally due to end to when we then were in receipt of further DWP funding. So we did have this historically as well. So it was just to ensure that we didn't lose that resource in the time it took to hear from the DWP, but we did have actually further funding for that following 2 years.
Okay, Councillor Fluker.
How long was the gap, Chairman?
Miss
3
Wheatley.
months.
3 months.
From June, yes.
Thank you. The comment I would make, and going back to cemeteries and grass cutting, because this is referring to Q1, which is April to June. Well, we all remember what June was like. It was so hot, the grass wasn't growing. And then, hey presto, in July, the heavens opened and we were all cutting, you know, I know because I look out my bedroom window onto a golf course, I know exactly how much they've been cutting. So I'm a bit concerned about what Q2 might bring. I don't know if you've got a comment.
Thank you, Chair. We still have those salary savings, so we are still using those to fund additional support when we need it, but it's certainly not a long-term solution, Chairman, hence the service review.
Okay. Right. Members were being asked to note and agree. Yeah, louder, thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Next item on the agenda. Oh no, we've done that one. Okay. Budgetary Control as at 30th of June 2023. Who's going to take us through this? And it is Miss Lucas.
Oh, no, sorry, it is Lance.
Oh no. It's got your name down on my list, you see. Tara sent me a crib sheet, but Mr. Porteous.
Thank you, Chair. This is the report outlining the budget monitoring position of the Council at the end of Q1. It is for the committee to note. As at Q1, we are forecasting a £66,000 underspend, and it is detailed in different ways within the report. In Table 1 on page 21, it shows an overspend against employees, an underachievement of income, and a significant underspend against non-employee budgets. In Table 2, page 22, the significant non-employee budgets and forecasts are broken down service by service. Similarly, in Table 3, page 23, the significant income budgets and forecasts are broken down service by service also. The variances of each are explained below each table in sections 4.3 and 4.4. But just to point out, the largest individual variance being forecast is an underspend against household waste due to reduced demand since the pandemic ended. For example, one less truck is now being used. Employee and members' cost variances are shown in Table 4 on page 25. These are forecast to be very close to budget. There is a potential pressure on the vacancy factor due to agency staff required in some areas such as planning, while new staff are being recruited into the new service delivery structure. But this will be closely monitored throughout the year. There was an adjustment for national insurance, which has created a surplus budget and is largely offsetting the vacancy factor variance. Table 5 in paragraph 7.1, page 25, shows the impact of increased interest rates, which are higher than budgeted, so should bring in an additional £250,000 over the course of the financial year. This will also be closely monitored due to interest rates regularly changing. And Table 6 on page 26 shows collection rates are tracking slightly above budgeted this year. And finally, Table 7 shows the impact on the general fund balance with current budget variances factored in, bringing the forecast general fund balance as at the 31st of March 2024 up to nearly 5.4 million. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. On the face of it, good news. I just want to comment on the report. It's a very good report, and it's very clear, and each of the lines are, for members' benefit, are explained. So whoever put that together, thank you very much. I'm going to go to Councillor Fluker first.
Thank you, Chairman. Do you know, I was just about to say that because I think Mr. Porteous, I mean, you and I have lived through several 151 officers and some of whom weren't 151 officers. But I must admit, through you, Chairman, but I'll look at him. I do like his reports. But, Chairman, there's an excellent news story in here, and I look forward to the officers confirming this later. I think just for the benefit of the record, Chairman, and the tape, this report is dated is at the 30th of June. And I think Mr. Porteous mentioned, Chairman, that we still had contracting staff on board and everything else and vacancies to fill. But I'm sure, Chairman, all the members of the committee will be heartened when I give them this advice. And I've just checked this on the Maldon District Council website, Chairman, and if you'll indulge me to quote the Maldon District Council website, there says, there are currently no vacancies available at Maldon District Council. That's excellent news, Chairman, and the officers should be commended. Thank you very much.
Well, okay, that may or may not be the case, but yes, and well, if that's what it says on the website, we'll hope our website is up to date. In an area of concern that I always have in these respects is council tax collection rates, because knowing the pressure that is on, they are good at the moment, but of course they are very, this in the current economic climate and the cost of living crisis, they don't need to change very much before there's a significant financial impact. But unless members, we are being... Yeah, Councillor Stamp.
Real quickie, really, because I was reading this, and luckily I had last year's accounts as well, because I've been trying to understand some of the things there. All I would say, I think it's an excellent report, but I was looking back. I like to know what we did last year as well, and I know you can't do it, Mr. Porter, because it gives you more work, but I sometimes find it easier because your council tax rates, you know what you've just said about the budget and the forecast. I think, was it last year we were below what we were budgeted to be the year before, if that makes sense. Sometimes it just put context for me. It might just only be me, Chairman, because I can be a little bit strange, but I like the information in front of me. But I think it's also an excellent report, and I support the recommendation.
Councillor Siddle.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points on refuse and recycling 4.3 item 1, driver salaries. I know in the past that we have supported sewers in terms of those salaries, and is that something that we're still doing? And on item number 9, the card processing fees. So we're saying that this is 17,000 more than expected, but are we getting more car parking fees than we expected as well? So is that balanced out?
Right, I'm looking to Mr. Howard White. If that, you have that information, it will.
Chairman, I don't have the car park information. That
area
actually falls to Sue Green if she's still on the call, Chairman.
Yeah, Mrs. Green, can you help us with the car parking point?
So yes, the going back to the report, the car park. The car park income is actually overall tracking higher than we had originally got in the budget historically. What the variation is at the moment is the fact that we've had an additional, I believe it was 130,000, I think was it Mr. Porteous, that was added into our projected income for car parking as part of the Future Council project a few years ago. So that's what's kind of currently showing is a sort of significant variation, is the fact that the car park income actually is not significantly different to kind of pre-COVID. We would have been on track for the levels of income, but at the moment it is showing under, because we have got this extra 130,000 that's been added in to the assumed income, but without any policy behind that to generate that additional income. So there's no sort of assumption that we would have increased the car park charges significantly. So that's why there is a variation.
Well, if our car parking rates are back to pre-COVID, we're doing extremely well. I was with the leader of Epping today, and their car parking revenue is 25% less than it was before COVID. So, Councillor Siddle.
Yeah. So what is the reason that our fees are more?
May I come?
Yep, Ms. Lucas.
Thanks, Councillor Siddle. I think that particular pressure is, as the report says, due to the number of people paying by cards being higher than previously. So obviously we don't really take cash anymore in our car parks, so the number of card transactions is higher, and that particular element of the pressure is due to the extra card fees due to the increased volume of card payments. But the wider pressure or that Sue was reporting is around the car parking income more generally, if that makes sense.
So the fact that we have gone to card processing and not cash, we haven't anticipated that there would be this extra charge. Is that what we're saying?
I think there's been an element probably of that built in, but I think the maybe the volume is higher than originally anticipated, but we can look to make a budget adjustment for that going forward to reflect the actual nature of the transactions that we're now experiencing. Yeah.
Okay. Can I just ask a question? Yes, I appreciate the fact that there's card processing charges, and I would expect there's also charges from My Permit or whoever we use for our pay by phone. Is that right? Which will certainly be greater than it was previously.
I might defer to Sue if that's okay. I don't know if you've got the detail on that.
Certainly going forward, the majority of any additional fees, so for example from My Permit, are actually included within the transaction fee that the customer would pay, so that isn't a cost that we would pick up going forward.
Good, okay. All right, I've got Councillor Thompson, then Fittock, and then Fluker.
Thank you, Chairman. Actually, I'm not familiar with My Permit. What's My Permit? Oh, Ringo, they're all the same. I was actually assuming that since Ringo charged another 40 or 50p on top of the actual fee, that we weren't charged any, but I'd be interested to hear the answer.
Well, we're not. We just heard. Yeah. We use My Permit, and the customer bears the cost.
Didn't know.
Yeah, that's fine. Councillor Fittock.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in terms of the charges, it might be because the merchant acquirer rate has changed in any way, shape or form as well.
Yeah. Thanks. We can go away and look at the exact nature of those costs, but yeah, there are costs to the council when in terms of dealing, as you say, with the merchant supplier. So we can take that away and get the exact detail on that. But yeah, there are costs to the council as part of that arrangement.
Councillor Fluker, finally.
I mean, with the caveat that I always struggle when I look at local authority accounts, but Chairman, it seems to me as though the revenue from the car parks for this period is 360,000. So bearing in mind what the NatWest did to me the other day, they would charge me £3,600 to count that sum if I paid it into the bank. And of course, we then have the costs of going around the machines and collecting it. But Chairman, what my concern really is, if we take the figure of £360,000, and everybody paid by card, 18,000 would be the equivalent of 5%, and I don't think anybody pays 5% on card handling. So, I take a lot of comfort from what the 151 officer says that they're going to go away and do a little bit of work on this, because I think 5% to handle cards is not the norm. Thank you, Chairman.
I think that would be useful if we can get the card rate reported back for the next meeting. That would be, because it is a significant cost. I'm going to go to Councillor Stamp and then Councillor Lay.
Mine's a quick one, Chair. Do we get charged a car park? Do we get charged a fee for debit cards for car parking? We do as well. Do we know what that amount is, Chair? Is it the same, Councillor Siddle? Well, no, it's an interesting point. Or do we wait? Are we going to wait to have the information come back?
Yeah, through you, Chair, I will clarify, because I don't want to speculate. But my understanding is that it's all cards. It doesn't matter whether it's a debit or credit card that we would say.
Right.
Okay. Well, as I say, I will take that away and get a definite answer for you.
We will get an answer on all of our costs for collecting car parking revenue, if members are happy with that. Councillor Lay.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. Are we able to build in, I presume the card charges are from the banks directly or the financial institutions. Are we able to build in a tariff that actually decreases with more use? Because normally a volume-based charge would save the council a lot more money. The more people we got into the car parks, there's no physical involvement in the actual payment processing. So if you increase your volume, it's not actual cost to the bank. In fact, we could look at savings that way by building in that factor into our charging. Sorry, having worked in the industry, understand how it works, it might be an easy way to do that. Banks don't tend to adjust charges where they don't need to or are not pointed out.
Again, through you, Chair, we'll go away and clarify, but as you say, my experience of those kinds of contracts, and I haven't been involved in this specific one at this council, is that, as you say, there is a set of tariffs which is based on volume, and if you reach certain thresholds, then those tariffs reduce. So it is based on that kind of model. Yeah.
I think it was a fair point, because apart from council tax, car parking income is our biggest source of income, and the costs associated with it, are quite critical. So the lower we can get those, the better. So we will come back to that. So, members, we are just being asked to note. Noted. Thank you very much indeed. And that brings us to the last item tonight, which is the fees and charges policy. Before we start, we're not debating the individual fees and charges. We are debating the policy. So we're not going to start getting involved in cost of wharfage and cost of this and that. This is all about the policy. So, who is?
That one is me. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So, Miss Lucas. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. So as you say, the purpose of this report is to review the fees and charges policies that have been put forward by officers prior to the approval of the 24-25 budget and the updated MTFS. A further detailed schedule of fees and charges will be brought back before this committee at a future meeting for their approval. So this is just to seek approval, as I say, of the policies and the way in which those individual fees and charges will be set. Paragraph 3.3 summarises the proposed changes to the policy, and Appendix 1 sets out those policies line by line with any changes highlighted within that appendix. In the majority of cases, we've just simply clarified the council's existing policy, which is to charge a minimum of full cost recovery. And that there's a couple of areas within car parking where there are specific policy changes that are proposed, and they're at the top of that table 3.3. So I think that's probably all I would say, unless anyone's got any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, as a general rule, we should have an absolute minimum of cost of full recovery. But of course, there are some items where it's not lawful to charge more than cost recovery, unfortunately. So we will go to Councillor Thompson first, then Councillor Stamp.
Councillor Stamp was quicker with her hand, but if she's
I saw you first,
I'm
Councillor
happy.
Thompson.
Fine, thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Stamp.
You'll both get your go.
Absolutely agree with you, Chairman. We shouldn't be doing anything for less than the actual cost. But I do have a couple of queries. One is bulky waste collection. I would hate to see much more than a nominal fee added to that, simply because the alternative is more fly tipping. And the other is the green waste and replacement of bins. I'm afraid it isn't the residents who break the bins. It's the workers who break the bins, and I've been round this loop a couple of times already with various residents in my ward who've had the bin sort of flung back across the drive, the lids come off or whatever, and then they're asked to pay for a new one. And I'm sorry, that's outrageous. We should be claiming it, but we should be claiming it from sewage, no? Or whoever's doing the collection.
Are you talking about
if it's green waste? It's
green
not
waste
sewage,
or the food waste?
Yeah, food waste. Any of that. Okay. Green bins, black bins, any of it. We should be, if the crews or a crew member is causing the breakage, then that company, whoever it is, should be paying. Thank you, not the residents. It's just not fair. They don't throw them
fair
about.
Point, well made. And they've broken the lid off mine, I must admit. So, I don't know if anybody's got a. Okay, right. Councillor Stamp.
Mine's just a quick question, really. When it says service delivery, inquiries non-statutory, can I have an example of a non-statutory inquiry and how that would be charged?
Thank you, Councillor Stamp. I did actually just pick up on that one before the meeting because I wasn't sure myself. So I think it's a fair question. I don't know that we have got an answer on that one yet. So again, I might have to take that away unless any of my colleagues on the call have managed to clarify that line. But yeah, I did ask the same question myself.
Yeah.
I think Sue's up on the
Sorry. Mrs. Green.
Thank you, Chairman. We understand this relates to land charges fees, so these are not general customer inquiries, they are specific to land charges.
Okay.
We can make that clearer in the...
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Just as far as policy is concerned, Chairman, it was the policy of this council to increase wharfage by inflation, particularly the Thames barges. Can the 151 officer confirm that that's actually been implemented from, I suspect, the 1st of April? And my other question is, Chairman, and it goes back to what we were considering earlier, and that is, Chairman, that I'll get to it in a moment, the Town and Country Planning Act allows for councils to charge a monitoring fee, which is quite modest in relation to Section 106 agreements. However, Chairman, and I'm sure officers are aware, that was amended quite significantly in 2019. And I draw officers' attention to some of our neighbours, Chairman, for example, Braintree and Colchester, and there are others throughout the UK that charge significant amounts of money to monitor Section 106 projects. Now, I've heard the argument that we never wrote this into the local development plan, Chairman, but it is statute, and I suspect statute is actually sovereign to our local development plan, Chairman. And I'd also say, Chairman, that under Section 106A of the Town and Country Planning Act, you're not looking for a pupil, are you? No, right. We can renegotiate planning obligations anyway. But I think, Chairman, bear in mind when you look at other councils' fees and charges, and they make this quite clear, and these are not county councils, these are councils, you know, district councils and city councils, and they've got fees in there, fixed fees for 1,500 quid, to, you know, to monitor things. I'm not saying it would cover the costs that we've spoken to tonight, but it certainly would close the budget. So, Chairman, I'd ask that officers go away and consider that. Thank you, because I think it'd sit right and proper in our policies. Thank you.
Well, Councillor Fluger, yeah, I will let you come back, Ms. Luke. Yeah, I would hope we would be benchmarking services, fees and charges, but and in order to make the maximum amount that we can legally make. Ms. Lucas.
Just with regard to the question about section 106, the second to last line of the Appendix 1 does set out that, yeah, we do seek to charge a monitoring fee based on individual section 106 cases, so that is no change to our existing policies.
Could we, just to speed things up, could we have a breakdown then, please, of what you've collected through that? Because my understanding is it's 0.5% of value, and that's the way of doing things, I understand, before 2019, but I wouldn't expect you to know the answer, so I'm sure all members will enjoy receiving that later. Thank you.
And perhaps we can benchmark against our neighbours. Councillor Driver.
Thank you, Chair. My question relates actually to clinical waste, which actually is referred to further down in the report. Pre the transformation, it might have been pre-COVID, I'm not quite sure which, we decided as a council to stop collecting clinical waste. The consequence of that is that there are now thousands of people across Maldon district who have to organise individual collections for clinical waste from their homes. So we have a system where people are running around the district collecting from individual houses clinical waste, whereas previously you brought it to the council offices here, it sat in a box, somebody came along once a week or whatever, collected it all once, and that was it. So we have introduced what can only be a very cumbersome, expensive system where I would have thought we could have very easily found a solution. Now, particularly as we are opening this building up more, and potentially there might be other locations where clinical waste could be left and collected from a few locations rather than thousands of locations across the district. Thank you.
Now, I do recall when that ceased, because we would quite often come in and see the yellow bins on the thing. Mrs. Green, can you remember the reasons for ceasing that service?
From memory, Chair, I understand that this was a more cost-effective way and actually provided a service for the resident, but I'm sure my colleague Hannah, who's I think on the call, I think we can give an undertaking that we can go back and review those costs, because obviously if there is a more efficient way of delivering that service, of course, that's what we want to do.
Well,
I'm happy to take that way to review that for you, Chairman.
I think that's a policy that could be reviewed.
Yeah, from a resident's point of view, it is certainly not helpful, and I find it hard to believe that going round thousands of houses, picking up individual yellow boxes is more efficient and more cost effective than going to one location where residents bring the box to that location. Thank you.
Okay, well, we will look at that. With an ageing population, we do have an increasing number of clinical waste needs. Councillor Fluker.
Another box. Chairman, I just wanted to I asked a question about wharfage and the policy of council. I'm not sure if anybody came back on that, but I'll happily take an answer afterwards.
I would rather you would, because we did say we weren't talking about individual cases.
No, Chairman, it was I made it absolutely clear it was the policy of council that was agreed that they would go up by inflation. I just wanted to make sure that that's the case. Thank you.
If that was agreed, I'm sure it is, but we will wait for the answer. So, members, we need this. Do you approve the policies as set out in point 2? Councillor Thompson?
Chairman, just to advise, it's a recommendation to council.
Oh, it is a recommendation to council, so we'll need a Yes, Councillor Thompson.
Sorry, well, I can't support the recommendations as is on account of the damage to the bins. I know it's a small item, but I don't want to agree that residents should pay for damage to bins that they didn't cause. So if we could have an amendment, if you'd allow me to add an amendment to that effect, or if you would, or whatever, but I'm afraid I would have to sit on my hands for this because I don't think residents should be paying for damage they don't cause.
I'm just going to wait. Hold on, Councillor Fluker. I mean, Mrs. Green, when somebody reports a bin broken, are the circumstances of that damage taken into account?
My understanding is that they would be, Chairman. So if there was evidence that that was caused by sewers, then certainly we wouldn't be looking to charge. That is my understanding. But again, happy to take that away unless Mrs. Wheatley can comment any further.
Yes, so I was just going to say that generally with replacement bins, they're where they've been stolen. So it's just making sure that we are making a full cost recovery for those replacement bins when they've been stolen. But where there is damage, then yes, we will consider that damage and obviously the costs associated with replacing those bins.
Yeah, I don't know whether you heard that, Mr. So if somebody has it stolen, they have to pay, but if it's broken, they don't. Is that basically what we're saying?
Sorry, yes, what I'm saying is that sometimes a lot of people claim that they've had their green bin stolen and they would then pay for a replacement. Where the bin has been damaged and we can see that it's been damaged by the crews, then we would look at obviously making sure that that cost isn't incurred by the resident, but that is dealt with on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
Sorry, Chairman,
okay.
how does anybody prove anything? Still, okay.
Well, the onus of proof is on the resident. It's only the food caddies. Councillor Fluker, yeah.
Can I propose that we note Councillor Thompson's comments and we agree the recommendation and then we can all debate the theft of bins and the apportionment of blame when we get to full council.
Well, Chairman, Councillor Fluker, I'm inclined to agree in that we don't want to be working all sorts of complications into this because it is just a policy. And as we said, it is cost recovery, and it's very easy for somebody to say, oh, my bin's been nicked and they're using it for something else in their garden, growing potatoes or something in their green bin. But so members, please, as it's a recommendation of council, just please show by show of hands if you are agreement. Councillor Fluker, are you? This is a recommendation to council. Are you agreeing? Well, okay. Well, that's absolutely. Well, it's a majority anyway, so that's it. Thank you very much indeed.
Do you want to go?
Well, if you really, I think we know where you're coming from, Councillor Stamp, and it is going to go to full council, so it is agreed. Thank you very much indeed. Final item, items of urgent business. There are none. You'll be glad to hear we don't need an exclusion of public and press, so we close this meeting at dead on 9 o'clock. Not that to me, Councillor.